Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, no matter where in the world you're joining us from. Happy to have you here on this Sunday for our edition of Busting Out, the 22nd episode, coming hot off the Royal Rumble. And coming in, my BrunchBuster brother right beside me, Chris Parrish, is in San Antonio right now, fresh off the Royal Rumble. Parrish, how you doing this morning?
I'm alive. I am alive. I am so kicking it right now. So,
just barely, yeah. I'm sure. But we're joined by a very, very special guest right down below us. He is NWA official right there, Jarrod Fritz, Mr. Ref Fit himself. Thank you for joining us here today. Happy to have you on Busting Out.
Oh, thank you guys, man. I really appreciate it.
Yes, we know we got you for a short bit of time here today, so I want to kick off the episode and just get to know you a little bit better, find out a little bit about your journey into professional wrestling, what got you started, a little bit of your background so people can get to know who you are.
Oh, sure, man. I think just like anybody in the wrestling business, you grew up a huge fan of wrestling itself, and oddly enough, my mom was never a fan of me watching it. So I had to sneak away and watch it at other people's house or, keep the door shut and watch it when she was around the corner or something like that. But eventually she gave into it. My uncle was a huge fan of the NWA growing up. I got to watch a lot of it at his house when I was younger. And of course, we didn't tell my mom. But, it was something that my senior year of high school, I believe, was the first year they did the Tough Enough thing. And prior to that, I had no idea really anything more than just WWE and WCW. I didn't know that there were independent circuits. I didn't know there were schools you could go to get trained. Also, I graduated high school at 5'7" and 125 pounds. I didn't think I ever had any type of chance. But long story short, I ended up finding out that there was a local promotion about 9 years ago here in Charleston, South Carolina. And I actually just volunteered my service. I'm a sports massage therapist. I volunteered my services in the locker room to see if I could help them out. And that just evolved into a possible storyline with a buddy of mine who did wrestle for them and got trained, found out that I actually had abilities to do stuff in the ring. And it was proposed to me one day by my trainer. You ever thought about refereeing? I was like, not even once, but I'll do it. I'll give it a shot if I could be a part of professional wrestling, which then evolved about a year and a half later to me actually wrestling. I wrestled for about just over a year and I had separated my shoulder. And as I said, I'm a licensed massage therapist as a shoot job, and that's my livelihood. So I stepped back from actually wrestling because I was thoroughly enjoying refereeing way more than I was enjoying the wrestling part of it. I just found that I added so much more value to the stories and to the matches as a referee than I could ever do as a wrestler. So that's the long and short of it.
Nice. Very nice. And I see that we are being joined in the chat there, Basser. We'll get to your question in a little bit when we start talking about the Royal Rumble. We're going to focus a little bit on the start here with our special guest, Jarrod, and we'll talk about the Royal Rumble very shortly. Parrish, over to you. What kind of questions you got for Jarrod here this morning?
Yeah, because I remember when I started training, a lot of the ways I cut teeth was doing other jobs, whether it was being a security, and one of them was also being an official. And I had a lot of guidance through some of the veterans about kind of being comfortable in those shoes. What has being an official and being a referee in wrestling taught you about professional wrestling that you were able not only to carry over, but also help implement to some of the wrestlers that are in the ring?
Oh, man, that's a great question. I think the simple answer for it is storytelling. We often, at least me growing up, wrestling is and always has been about storytelling. And oftentimes people see the referee as just this extra person in the ring that doesn't really do anything, where in all actuality, we're helping keep the tempo. We're helping relay any type of messages that need to be relayed. We're doing things to the way that I act in the ring helps enhance the story just the same. If they have a huge falsie and I just count 1, 2, that, and I don't pay attention to it, it doesn't convey to the crowd like it was really all that important. But if I make it look bigger and I react bigger and I react to the wrestlers just the same, the audience sees that just the same. And, as many audience members like to think that they know exactly how to be a referee and all the rules, we still have to tell the rules. That's our responsibility. We tell just as much of the story as the wrestlers do. And we can also see what the audience is doing and convey that to the wrestlers, because it's all about reacting to the audience, right?
Yeah, I completely agree. What I always found very fascinating, especially in today's day and age, is you don't get, or but maybe more so where I wrestle, or like the scene I'm in. I don't want to say in other places in the world because I'm not there, but the communication between not only the wrestlers and the official, because a lot of people assume when they watch a wrestling match that it's one-on-one and there's only two people, but really it's three people working that. And sometimes an official and a referee can really make an average match a good match, and a good match a great match, exactly based on what you said. So I always thought it was very interesting that to hear it from like your angle, because it does portray a completely different perspective about a match. And I always said wrestling is all about perspective. So I really do commend you for wanting to be an official, because man, like that is such an important and key factor to a match, and it is part of the show as well.
And how has it been like working with the NWA, and in particular, how did that opportunity come about for you?
Oh, well, it's absolutely been surreal, seeing as it is the first door that was opened to me in wrestling as a child. You know, I remember watching a lot of the old stuff with my uncle. So that was always kind of like the background. And then, of course, we get saturated into my teenage years with WCW, WWE, and you kind of forget about the NWA until I got older and realized that the NWA was, you know, WCW for a period of time there. But the opportunity came up to me, you know, as anybody in the wrestling business in the indies, you got to reach out to promoters, you got to reach out to anybody to get the opportunities. And I just happened to watch the first episode of Power because I was kind of in awe that it was coming back. And I watched it and I realized that one of the people that I kind of grew up in the business with had connections there. She was working there, and I reached out to her, and I didn't ask for the hookup. I just said, who do I need to send my resume to? Who do I need to send my videos to? And the response was, listen, you know, we're full right now, so I got nothing for you. And about a year later, I got a phone call saying, hey, we got an opportunity for you to come in. We're actually bringing you in as a massage therapist in the locker room, but we're going to give you an opportunity to referee at least one match just to see how you do. And the rest is history after that, you know.
So kind of get to double up with your shoot job within the NWA job as well at the same time.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Another thing I wanted to ask is, who in the wrestling world has not only inspired you, but also been a very helpful hand of giving you advice down the road? Because I know as a wrestler, you kind of always go to other wrestlers, but from an official standpoint, has there been any, you know, officials, referees that, you know, you look to for guidance and advice that maybe don't get the accolades as maybe they should?
Yeah. So my trainers, Bob Keller and John Schuyler, were actually, I never went to a school for refereeing, but Bob has done every possible job in the business over and over and over again. And so he gave me the foundational elements of it. And for those who are familiar with John Schuyler, he's with Impact right now. He is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to wrestling and how everybody in the ring should act. So both of them gave me a lot of the foundational type of things. I studied a lot. Once I got into it, you know, was encouraged, hey, go watch some of the older referees. Go find people that you like. You know, Tommy Young, Charles Robinson, Red Shoes, Randy Anderson, John Cone. Those are all ones that I really, really like. And then, of course, prior to getting into NWA, there was an older NWA referee, a little probably lesser known, guy named Jeff Capo, based out of the Northeast area, who gave me a lot of really good advice, just a couple little things here and there that help kind of tweak and whatnot. And then once I got the opportunity to work with NWA, of course, Brian Hebner and Robert King were just amazing at giving me good feedback, things that I need to work on, little tweaks here and there. So that's always been fantastic for me. Little hidden gems. And I think another one of the ones that probably would shock a lot of people is I do a lot of work with Gangrel. And again, he's another huge wealth of knowledge. And he's always given me a lot of cool little, just little tweaks about just reacting slightly different in one way or another. And of course you implement it and you see the reaction, and it's amazing. It's like he's done it before or something.
Once or twice at least, anyway.
Yeah, it's pretty cool that we have that connection, because Gangrel has been a big inspiration when I was in the ring as well. One of the nicest human beings there is, and just I don't think people understand how intelligent when it comes to the art of professional is.
We got Heel Kevin joining us in the chat there. Heel Kevin, good morning, sir. Happy to have you on board as always. To anybody who hasn't done so already, go check out Heel Kevin over on Twitch. Give him a like, follow, subscribe, all those lovely things. One of the good friends and supporters of the show here, of course. But Jarrod, back to you again. You've got the hashtag rolling out, Ref Fit. So again, you're a very fit guy into your fitness. Got your workout in before joining us here today. Let's talk about that a little bit more. What do you do in terms of your training and stuff like that to keep in the level of fitness in order to keep up inside the squared circle there with, these great competitors?
Well, I'll preface it by saying I've been in the health and wellness industry for about 20 years. So I've always been into fitness. I played football in high school. I wrestled in high school. So I've always been actively engaged in the workout community, if you will. And because I'm a sports massage therapist, I like to really learn about all the sports that I work with. And I've never been really good at many sports unless it's pretty much full contact or some sort of working out. So early in my, I think it was early in my 30s, no, late 20s, I started out just doing powerlifting because it was something that was really easy for me. That got a little bit boring for me. So then I transitioned into CrossFit, and then that got a little too crazy for me. And so actually now I am training as a strongman competitor in the lightweight weight class. Of course, I'm not dealing with the big guys. There's no way in hell I could. But I am a certified personal trainer. So I have a working knowledge of fitness and everything. And I do anything and everything that I can when it allows me to in my schedule to stay fit and do what I can. And as you can see in the background here, we built a gym in my house. So it's right there whenever I need it.
That's awesome. Makes it nice and convenient. Parrish, I'm going to go back to you. Some more questions that you might have.
Yeah. Just from getting kind of like your thoughts from the massage therapist side, what are very common injuries that maybe you see from professional wrestlers? And maybe what are some things that you see that maybe are habits that, wrestlers have that can be avoided if they were maybe to tweak something or change something? Because I'm sure whether it's stretching, whether it's proper body rest between like workouts or something could be some of it. But what else, like, is there anything from that spectrum of your life that you would say, okay, let's maybe get in the habit of doing this a little bit more?
The easy answer to that is mobility, just general mobility. I think a lot of people in general, when it comes to working out, don't stretch out properly or don't prepare themselves dynamically properly to do what they're about to do. I do see it a lot more versus when I first started than I do today, because there's a lot of people that are active in trying to get themselves stretched out and mobilized beforehand, because it does wreak havoc on your body. The most common thing, of course, is that across the board is right side mid back, because that's where everybody hits the ropes, and then left arm injuries because everybody works the left arm, right? So those are the ones that come across the board all the time. The unique ones that I don't think a lot of people think about is, of course, low back injuries, because oftentimes, if you think about it, you're wrestling, you're up and down, being slammed, being thrown around, whatever. And then oftentimes, if you're on the indies, you go sit in a car and you got to drive anywhere from 2 to 6 hours to get home, sometimes even more than that. So you're in a very locked in position with your hips. So the moment you go to stand up, everything goes out in your low back. And that's not one that a lot of people really think about how it's all connected, but it is pretty huge, and I experience it myself all the time.
So what's like one of the number one things that you would recommend people do if they were have lower back? Because I can attest to you, I do have lower back pains myself, and I definitely try to wear more of a brace when I tend to do more heavy lifting, like or things like that, or whatnot. And I definitely try to stretch a lot more. But is there anything else, like say I personally can do with lower back pain?
Absolutely. And this is shocking to a lot of people, but it's very closely and directly related to your hip flexors and your quads. So being able to mobilize and stretch out your quads and your high hip flexor, your psoas muscle deep inside the hip, those are the ones that are closely associated, that once you move around and then you sit down for that long period of time, it just becomes isotonic and it just locks up there. So when you go to stand up, that's when the low back goes out. So it's realistically making sure that you stretch your quads and your high hip flexor before and after the match. And if you're traveling, taking the opportunity that when you get out of the car to go to the gas station or whatever it is just, try to get some hip movement in there, try to open it up a little bit more. So that way you're being counteractive to what's happening while you're sitting in the car for such a long period of time.
This is awesome information for anybody tuning in that is involved in the professional wrestling world, for sure. I know that you're a busy guy and you got places to go. You're going to be joining our friends over at Love Wrestling for the brunch gimmick in just a short period of time. But before you do, we want to give you an opportunity to take the floor. Let everybody know what do you have coming up? Any particular things outside of the NWA, and also plug all your social media as well while you have an opportunity here with us.
Oh man, appreciate that. So I will start out with NWA. We've got our live power coming up this Tuesday. I'll be flying out first thing in the morning to head up to Knoxville. Everybody can check that out on YouTube, the NWA channel on YouTube. It's going to be pretty amazing. Then the following week after that, we've got the Enough Said pay-per-view that you can get on Fight TV, and that's going to be down in Tampa. Other than that, let's see. We've got a couple of things coming up here locally with Old School Championship Wrestling based out of Charleston, South Carolina. We got a really cool show at the end of February that's actually going to have Jazz and Rodney Mack there, which will be really, really fun, really cool to see them at my own home promotion, if you will. And then other than that, right now, I don't have a whole heck of a lot going on. I've got a lot of other things happening personally with the other businesses that I run and everything. But I should be learning a lot more coming up here on Tuesday to figure out where NWA is going to be heading next. So the companies that I personally work with on the regular at this point right now are Old School Championship Wrestling based out of Charleston, South Carolina, WrestleForce based out of Columbia, South Carolina, and Viral Pro Wrestling based out of Thompson, Georgia. So you can find all of those on social media just by a simple search there. You can find me on social media at Jarrod.Fritz on Instagram, at JFritzRefFit on Twitter, and then Jarrod C. Fritz LMT on Facebook. And anybody has any questions at any time or whatever, feel free to shoot out. I'm an open book. Whenever I can get to you, I'll get to you.
Perfect. And I believe just before you go, Parrish has one last question he wants to get in.
Yeah, I know in wrestling we always say, "Oh, who's your Mount Rushmore of professional wrestling?" But I'm going to tweak it up a little. Who do you say is your Mount Rushmore on pro wrestling officials?
Man, that's I always hate questions like this because it's like everybody has a different style, and I'm always like, okay, so like, what are we talking about? Tommy Young has got to be on like the number one for me. And everybody's different and everybody likes different styles of referees and everything like that. Tommy Young was the first one that I ever watched that was one of the ones that I could see was telling the story with the match. He was enforcing the rules. He was getting in there. He was telling the audience what they needed to know and everything. So he's been huge on there. From a personal experience, somebody that's always helped me out like one-on-one and really given me a lot of good information, of course, is Brian Hebner. And so you could just say the Hebner family. Can we say the Hebner family as number two? Because of course, if there was no Dave and Earl, there'd probably be no Brian, you know. So the Hebner family would take number 2 easily. I think one of the ones that a lot of people don't give a lot of credit to, that's somebody I absolutely love watching, is Randy Anderson from the old WCW days. He was a very small statured guy, but he got in there, he did his job, you know, and he helped tell that story. And as somebody that I really, really, really loved watching. Gosh, the fourth one's always the hardest one because there's like so many that I want to kind of plug in there and everything like that. And so I think it would honestly have to be a very, very, very close tie between Charles Robinson and John Cone, because I think both of them have a very unique style all on their own. John's toned down a whole lot more, but he gets in there, he does what he needs to do. He's always in the right positioning. And then Charles is always a little bit more over the top, but he's always there and he always tells a story. And I love that about both of them.
Well, I believe Heel Kevin thinks that your picks are very solid here as he's coming in with that comment. But again, we know you're a very busy guy, Jarrod. We want to thank you very much for taking the time here with us today. It's been a true honor to share the screen with you. Say hello to our friends over at Love Wrestling there. Enjoy your time over the brunch gimmick this morning. So anyone who has an opportunity, go and check them out over there. Parrish.
Yeah, also, I just want to throw out, if by chance you ever want to come back on, you're more than free to do it. But I wouldn't respect myself if I don't get you to do this. We do have a little tradition here at OLE. If you can, get as close to whatever microphone you have and yell Ole. We call that the Ole Pod Challenge, making fun of the Tide Pod Challenge, but in our own way.
So just Ole as crazy as I can.
As loud as you want.
Yeah.
Ole!
I think that's the best one we've ever got. Yeah, that's hands down best ever for sure. Thank you so much, Jarrod. Really appreciate your time this morning. It's been a true honor, my man. And like Paris said,
awesome.
Come join us anytime, any Sunday you want to come back. You're always welcome.
Sounds good, guys. Have a great evening.
All right. Take care. Cheers. All right. And that was Jarrod Fritz. Again, everybody go check him out on social media. Wonderful human being. And it was a true honor to have him on. But again, we've got someone who's live on location. Parrish, you're still over in San Antonio because the Royal Rumble took place last night. And, you know, I mean, we're going to go back because our friend Basser. And by the way, Basser, his young boy, Benny, just had a birthday this weekend. So happy birthday, Benny. I promised I'd say it on the show. Happy birthday to you. Have a great day. Hope you had a good birthday and stuff. But hell yeah, that's right. Parrish is live on location, San Antonio, Texas. Hell yeah. What was it like, Parrish? I mean, I know we got your thoughts last night on paper reviews, but we were all like, I know you were 9 beers in. I was 8 gins in. I don't know if I quite recall the conversation in full. And we got Pump of Smokes coming in. You guys,
it was crazy. I love the size of beers over in the Alamo Dome. That was terrific because I'm definitely somebody that says more beer the better. But man, it was absolutely electric. And just understanding that was, well, first off, the Alamo Dome. What a venue! Like absolutely amazing. Just absolutely this larger than life. I could not believe I was sitting inside the Alamo Dome. Always heard a lot about that venue. So really cool. Just kind of when I walked into my seat, I had to take that big look around. And unfortunately, we were sitting behind the WrestleMania side. So that was very unfortunate. But couldn't see it. But yeah, it was so electric. Over 50,000 people there. And everyone was just going crazy. And yeah, to answer that question, Cody at 30 or you know what? I'm going to go with Sammy simply because at the time 29 hit and we knew Cody still had to go. I think there was no surprise pop for Cody. It was just let's get ready to. It's kind of like when you know the ball's going to drop for New Year's Eve and it's the 3, 2, 1, you know what's next now. And I'm not saying that that's going to be any less loud, but you don't get the yeah, this holy kind of expression out of it. Whereas where Sammy, it's still, they have teased you so many times that you needed to see him hit Roman to believe it. And as soon as he did that, oh my God, that was a euphoria, a pop. And it was just absolutely insane. It was crazy. And it was just absolutely awesome to see that. And the best part is that was it was, but my God, seeing how many people were mad, I think made it, because as much as you want to love a pick and like an entrant, it is so good to see somebody that's universally hated, because I think it was the one time everyone could just gang up and like try to take her out, which they ended up doing. And I think I said this in the men's when I'm trying to remember who else. I think it was when Logan Paul came out. I'm like, I bet you Dominic Mysterio said thank you, because he got cheered when everybody was beating him up for the first time. It's like, thanks for taking the heat off me for a second, man. But
see, I saw Nia come out, and all I could think was, ouch, my whole night is ruined at this point.
Yeah, as soon as number 30 came out, my hole just started aching, and I don't know why.
But I mean, there's stuff about the night that didn't land, but that could be said about just about any wrestling card that ever happened anywhere on this planet. There was stuff obviously that we could talk about, that we will talk about here shortly. But I'm going to ask you, what was, from the live crowd perspective, the highlight of the night, like the biggest moment of the entire night? And I'm pretty sure I know where you're going to go with it, so I'm also going to throw out, what was the most shocking moment of the entire night?
I honestly think the two big moments was easily Cody winning and Sami Zayn hitting Roman. I don't think it's really a toss-up of which one. I think the men's Royal Rumble to start off, and my Lord, what a banger of a Royal Rumble that was.
There's some meat in that one.
There was. And I think too, like, probably the biggest shock, and a lot of people were wondering, because from a live crowd, we don't know what happened with Rey Mysterio. I mean, speculation, but I know from maybe a TV standpoint, you might have gotten a little bit more information than the live audience. So wondering if we were going to see that or anything to do with Dom and Ray, like in the live aspect, was definitely some people wanted. But I think probably the most shocking from my point of view was, I'm going to say, maybe Chelsea Green getting thrown out right away. I don't think anybody expected that. No, Chelsea Green is not the biggest name in either Rumble. But let's be honest, did anybody truly expect her to be tossed out? And then I know Michelle McCool got a very large surprise pop, because she made it perfectly clear that she was not asked to be a part of the Rumble on Twitter. And she fooled us all.
She kayfabed the shit out of that one. So Heel Kevin saying about the timer spot. So again, this is what happened on TV, and wants to know if this happened live as well. The countdown timer popped up on the screen. 10 seconds left to go, and by the time it hit like 8, Nia Jax's music started playing, and that happened live as well too.
Yeah, no, because we have videos on it, and one of the cool things I did was I took a photo of the screen every time somebody came out, because I had their number, and it was very weird, because that it was exactly the same. So I do think that there was a mess up on a button. I mean, we know here at OLE how hard buttons can be at times. We've all been there, and even the best in WWE can do it. Sometimes you just hit a button when you're like, oh, wrong time. Yeah. But yeah, no, 100%. Same thing happened. Live audience, we were wondering why. However, I will say this. Totally caught you off guard.
Yeah. Not sure if it was in a good way or not, but it caught you off guard. But how about this spot? Because this is going to be the spot a lot of people are talking about and want to know what this came across like in the live capacity, because this one sounded thunderous on the TV. These two nutcases, idiots, whatever you want to call them, but they definitely took a highlight of the night opportunity and went with it. This was huge. What was that like from the live perspective?
That got a holy, you know what, chant.
Mm-hmm.
Simple as put, like it was one of those things where not only did they do a springboard crossbody, but you can tell that they could have went higher, they could have went farther. And what's even crazier is this: it actually looked like Logan Paul had the better jump. There's a lot of people stood up in awe and shock when that spot happened. And a lot of people, I thought, had a little bit more respect for Logan Paul after this, because we all know how crazy and athletic Ricochet is. We're still learning on how crazy and athletic Logan Paul is. But yeah, this might be something in the making here. But if it's not, what a moment. And when you talk about Royal Rumbles, you talk about moments, and you got a good moment here, a really good moment. And you might not see like the Jeff Hardy, falling 100 feet into a table spots so much anymore. Maybe Kevin Owens might change that. But what you will see is crazy athleticism. And when they do, they not only make sense, but they're here. And that's something WWE does well. They can take something and make it as humanly larger than life as it should be. And that's what makes WWE WWE.
And yes, and we got Lauren Goodnight joining us. Lauren, good morning, good afternoon. Not sure, I haven't checked the clock in a while, but thank you for joining us here on Busted Out, saying Logan Paul can fly like Dante Martin. It's insane. Yeah, it was insane. It is really crazy, the athleticism that Logan Paul continues to show over and over again. He really starts to make the doubters question their doubts a lot of the times when he's stepping in there. He's done a great job. Good afternoon, gentlemen. I'm getting semi used to being called a gentleman.
Are we getting soft? Because we're getting people calling us gentlemen a lot more now. We're getting the females calling us gentlemen. So maybe they're just being very respectful to us.
Or we're doing something way wrong. I'm not too sure. But yes, I mean, like Logan Paul continues over and over again to silence the doubters. I mean, clearly the guy has got oodles of personality. I mean, there's no doubt there, or else he wouldn't become the star that he is in the first place before even getting into professional wrestling. But it seems like he wants to take his professional wrestling serious, and he wants to improve each and every time, and he continues to do that, and it's doing great. And we got Noob coming in. Noob, our local establishment. Hello, good afternoon, good morning. Thank you for joining us. Glad you could join us. This is a wonderful time. We got a lot of new chatters here on Busting Out. He's a certified awful person, but a hell of a wrestler. I could probably make a whole list of awful people that exist in professional wrestling. Doesn't mean that they're not good in a ring, but I mean, you can make that argument for any form of entertainment. There's tons of terrible people that are great entertainers out there, but sometimes you just got to shut the old brain off to what they're like on a personal level.
Yeah, and that's just it. Like it's I don't know. Like I don't tune in, and this isn't to go off any of the comment or whatever here because I don't disagree with it. But at the end of the day, you're going in and you're watching Logan Paul, the WWE superstar, not Logan Paul, the guy from his couch from Impulsive. So I don't know, like. At the end of the day, it's still like, let's also talk about this. The guy came back relatively quick from an injury. And I personally give guys a lot of credit when they show passion to that level, which, again, ultimately, you got to give a guy like Cody Rhodes the ultimate respect, because that is an injury that a lot of people take a lot of time to come back from. And not only did he, but my Lord, how impressive was he not showing any ring rust.
No.
Like at all. Every little detail was still there in his game. And it's hard, truly hard to say why he wasn't the right choice in the Royal Rumble match.
So now let's talk about this, because what the Royal Rumble does each and every year is it kind of gives us that blueprint towards WrestleMania. It starts to kind of show a little bit of the script on the way to the road to WrestleMania, as they call it. And some things did start to unfold last night, including the winners of the Royal Rumbles respectively and where they're going to go in terms of WrestleMania. But there was some other stories within there that we'll talk about as well too. But as you got a ticker up there, Codes and Rhea Ripley win their respective Royal Rumbles. So yes, I think this was the obvious choice for a lot of people. This was who we expected was going to win in both instances. This is who I've thought for a long time were the clear-cut winners for the Royal Rumble. It needed to be. But I'm not complaining either, because as much as this was the predictable way, it's the right way at the same time. Rhea looks like a damn star and always has, and this did everything to help certify that. And now we have the question of, does she go after Bianca Belair or does she go after Charlotte? And we know that Charlotte and Rhea part 2 at WrestleMania is something that I know Ed's really high on that idea, and he wants that. And I don't blame him, because the last time they did this was not in front of people. And I get that in front of people, Rhea and Charlotte could tear the house down and probably going to give one of the best matches of the night easily, like they did previously. But I'm very curious about Bianca and Rhea. I want to know where that would go. I want to see someone who finally gives a really threatening challenge to Bianca Belair's title reign. And that's where the story I want to see unfold. And I'm going to go over to you on this one. We'll talk about Cody in a moment too.
Yeah, and I think when you look at Rhea Ripley, you got to look at it both spectrums, because I think the Bianca Belair feud is one that a lot of people do want to see. They are the two representation of the future of the women's division for the next 5-10 years. Like, I don't think anybody's going to doubt that. And whether you like her or not, Charlotte as the SmackDown Women's Champion, they have unfinished business, as not only did they have a match, yes, in front of no people, the pandemic mania, I like to refer to it as, but also Charlotte defeated Rhea Ripley for that NXT championship. So there is redemption from Rhea Ripley's standpoint, and maybe unfinished business, as she called it at the press conference as well when asked about this very topic. But that's kind of the question at hand. And here's also something too of note. If she was to win the SmackDown Women's title, she would officially become a Grand Slams champion, from not only being an NXT UK, an NXT Raw, and then SmackDown Women's champion. So there would be history made if she were to defeat Charlotte for that championship. However, this is also a dawning of a new era if she was to go up against Bianca Belair and, like below, start a rivalry that is, John Cena, Batista, maybe Mickey James, Trish, maybe even Stone Cold, The Rock. We never know how big these two superstars will actually become. But yeah, they could then now start the first chapter on the main roster to really now kick off what can be an iconic feud between the two.
Certainly. And just want to get this up here quick. Kofi may need to pick easier Rumble spots or stop trying them. I say stop trying them. Like, there's no more wow factor in them. They're becoming a botch factor now. And it's, I think he should just go and do his regular thing and stop doing those. We've seen it before. Stop trying. Yeah. But yeah, back to this whole story. And again, I agree too that, like, again, the John Cena and Batista this generates, certainly. I think that there is that level of potential. There's that level of what if right now. We know what to expect out of Charlotte and Rhea. We don't know yet.
Trish and Mickey, but Trish and Lita as well. Like, you never forget that.
And Noob coming in. As far as Charlotte, I believe that she might face off against Asuka because Rhea Ripley isn't the only one who has issues with Charlotte. I could also see it being Liv. The way they portrayed Liv in that Royal Rumble last night, they're really still strong on Liv Morgan, and I think that I could see her stepping up to Charlotte Flair as well too. I think that is a very strong possibility. Just don't give us Ronda Rousey and Charlotte, please. But just no. Like, nobody wants it. Nobody's asking for it. Nobody wants Nia Jax versus Charlotte. Keep that one off the plate too.
Can we talk about one thing that did happen last night that I'm actually very, very surprised, and not surprised, but just really happy we got to see. And I'm just making the ticker right now, but
getting the ticker. Just hold on there, audience, for quite 1 second. There we go. Piper Niven is back.
I'm just gonna flat out do it this time. No.
Breaking news, in case you didn't watch the Royal Rumble last night. Piper Niven
is back. Dewdrop has been flushed down the toilet.
Yeah, they dropped that name like a bad habit. It's fantastic. But they also made her more serious last night, which was great too. It was nice to see. This was a more aggressive side and what we want. This is what everybody wanted, because who the hell wants somebody named Dewdrop? This was something she was saddled with and could have really, ruined her opportunities, but she's being given an opportunity again. They booked her strong last night too. She looked fantastic in that Royal Rumble match. Stood out like a sore thumb. Great. I'm glad. I'm very glad. I'm happy for her. I'm happy as a fan of pro wrestling that they taken a serious swing at this. Great.
Yeah, I just think it's so refreshing. And let's not discredit the work she did as Dewdrop. I think a lot of people, when they see a name change and it might not be a good one, obviously you're going to react the way you react. That is just human nature. But at the end of the day, buttons. At the end of the day, correcting it, like what we saw when LA Knight went to Max Dupree, back to LA Knight, you see just that euphoria of like, oh, thank you. And now with Piper Niven being back, I'm not going to lie. I screamed like a little boy when I saw that graphic on the Tron because I was so happy. I was so giddy to see this. I'm not going to say anything negative about Dewdrop because I just want to say something positive about Piper Niven. She looked amazing. And if you want to book her to be the person to beat Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania for that SmackDown Women's title, please, because damn right, I think Triple H is absolutely killing it right now with making these people look and feel like stars.
Yeah. I mean, again, he's gonna have his misses. Let's not sugarcoat the fact that it's like there's still things that are happening that not everybody's going to be on board with, not everybody's going to love. Triple H is not going to be perfect all the time, and nobody in professional wrestling is. It's a difficult duty to come up with ideas, matches, to just make things work in general. So like, I don't fault him. I mean, there's going to be mistakes, but it is it is such a breath of fresh air compared to what we were getting under Vince McMahon in his final years as the guy in charge of creative anyway, that it tweaks our interest more, and it's good to see as the police are coming to take Parrish away right now.
Well, they just know that Piper Niven was a guilty member of some things that stole the show. Let's be honest, we're talking about Piper Niven being back. It's a thing.
And Bastard
Bastard coming in. It was nice to see that the women's match didn't have a bunch of filler wrestlers. They had strong enough roster to fill the match for the most part. No Santina Marella, long live Piper Niven.
Great comment. Unfortunately, Santina Marella wasn't available due to contractual obligations over in Impact Wrestling right now. But
yeah. And another thing to note, the Women's Rumble had NXT inclusion, as the men did not.
And they stood out too. Like, man, did they stand out?
Yeah, and you definitely Rhea was asked this question at the press conference, and she made it very well known. She's like, I have a soft spot in my heart for NXT, so I would have loved to see NXT get some representation. But let's not kid ourselves. And I know right before we were talking a lot of this, you were saying that what we expected to see, we got. And what I'm noticing is right now, WWE understands that you might expect something. But if they can still deliver what you're expecting and still make you feel it, they are doing amazing work.
Yeah.
Because I did not feel at the end of either Rumble you needed any more than what we had. I thought this was really well done. Would I love to see a Carmelo Hayes, a Braun Breaker? Yeah, it would have been interesting to see some of the matchups you could have. But at the same time, I'd also be very okay with seeing the night after Mania regain that magic that it clearly lost last year. I'm going to say this, but with that being said, I loved the NXT choices for the women's. I thought Indy Hartwell was awesome and a very logical fit given what's going on in the main roster today.
Yeah, and I mean, again, Roxanne Perez, talk about someone who has had a very quick and very awesome rise since coming to the WWE, getting that opportunity to shine, very much stood out. Again, I watched the whole Royal Rumble pay-per-view with my wife. It's been a while since we sat down and watched the whole pay-per-view together. She was loving every bit of this. She didn't know who everybody was. She was getting up to speed a little bit, but again, the NXT women definitely stood out to her, especially Zoe Stark. Like, she thought Zoe Stark looked fantastic. She right away paid attention to her. She's like, she is a beast. And I was like, yeah, like she really is. She looked like she belonged there in amongst the main roster. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's not the case not too far from now.
Yeah, you're not wrong. She was absolutely amazing in a lot of those. So that's just it. Like, NXT does have talent that can just easily make that transition and not feel out of place. And Zoe Stark is one of them. With Roxanne Perez, you see the potential. Yeah. You completely see that one day she's going to be an absolute star on the main roster, but not right now. And there's nothing wrong about that because she's going to be such an organic member on the main roster once she gets there. Look at Bayley. She was not brought up with the rest of the four horsewomen, but dare I say she's had one of the better consistently good careers on the main roster since she's been out there. She has almost done just about everything to do in WWE as a woman, with only a few things left, which is actually quite amazing knowing how quietly she does it, despite how loud she will yell it now. But yeah, and that's just, there was so much more too, because I was wondering if we were going to get a Gigi Dolan, JC Jane, maybe a Cora Jade. So things like that were always very curious to me. Maybe an Alba Fire would have been interesting. Casey Catanzaro, who's been known to do those Kofi spots. So you just never know. The only one I actually did not care for, and I'm going back to the men's, I did not care about Booker T coming back.
It was so unnecessary. It really felt unnecessary. I don't know. Like, it just, you knew, like, him. The problem is him coming out again. I know the kind of spot they're going for, and it's happened lots in the past where you bring back a legend or something like that. You know they have zero chance of being the person that's going to end up being the victor. But it really felt, with the way this whole thing was set up, the whole way it was going, that this felt like kind of a detriment to the actual Rumble match more than an addition. I feel like you could have given that same spot to anybody on the current roster that wasn't out in there, and it would have been just as effective, if not more effective.
Yeah, and I'm not going to begin to speculate of like why this happened, because there's so many things out of our known brain because there's just so much unknown to information out there. We don't know if it's a lack of maybe they couldn't finalize deals with other people, or maybe this is one that just, it happened and they thought it would be a good pop in Texas. Whereas like Booker T is quite popular in Texas. I will say he had a huge pop when his music hit.
Yeah.
Would it be bigger if, like, say, maybe it was Stone Cold Steve Austin? Probably not. But at the end of the day, it's all about the entertainment aspect as well. And I'm not going to fool anybody to say a lot of people were very happy to see him from that live audience. So I can't dispute it. I can just say from personal experience, this is where I probably would have rather have seen a Carmelo Hayes, or even a Grayson Waller, or even Joe Gacy, Joe Coffey, JD McDonough, maybe.
Yeah, somebody that you could have added in there that would have worked just as effectively anyway. I mean, I definitely know where you're going, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. Let's talk about the men's Rumble match for a bit, because I know we did a lot of focus on the women's one. So the men's one, clearly Cody Rhodes, a lot of people had that prediction going into it. The storyline makes sense. Everything built around it makes sense. But I think the real story coming out of it, I mean, yes, there's a huge story with Cody going for the championship, getting to live out that family legacy. But Gunther, I want to talk about Gunther for a minute, because coming in at the number one spot, not only did he last all the way to the final two, but then him and Cody pretty much put on a wrestling match for a good 10 to 15 minutes at the end of this Royal Rumble. They did not make this look like an easy task for Cody Rhodes. Made Gunther look like a friggin' monster. Like, this guy was a beast out there. Awesome. This Gunther build has been phenomenal, to say the least. Other than, I'll say it, I thought that the work on the Raw 30 thing was a detriment to Gunther and making him look like a beast. I think that you could have done a little better. Going to wipe that aside. This redeemed it in every sense of the word. He was on fire at the Royal Rumble, looked like $1 million, presented like $1 million. I'm sold on Gunther as a main event player within the WWE.
See, I thought he was getting a rub from Triple H hard on Monday night. I thought it was very evident that Triple H wanted to do that spot just for Gunther. I will come and say that Bob told me Gunther before he was in the E. He's been saying for years, Gunther's the man.
Yeah, I mean, I've been praising Gunther, Walter, whatever he was named as, since while he was doing his work in WXW Germany. This guy is a star. He damn well is a star.
Well, yeah, and given the fact that he is that throwback, that traditional ring general as it was, having him be in the match, and the one thing I thought was amazing, I'm going to be coughing in a second, but I'm going to try to get this out. The one thing I thought was awesome, there was no dead spots with Gunther that entire match. And I thought that was really impressive, because there was 0 times he looked like he was not involved. He was always doing something, which was very great, because I also thought the same of Drew McIntyre and Sheamus, who I thought also had a very great showing in that match as well. But it's clear that Gunther, it's clear Gunther did one thing. And you know what that thing is? He went to rogueenergy.com and used the promo code OLEPODS and saved 10% and made sure that he was able to be the Iron Man in the 2023 Royal Rumble. So just be more like the WWE Intercontinental Champion and go to rogueenergy.com, use OLEPODS, save some money, and get fueled up to be the Iron Man in life like Gunther was in this year's Royal Rumble.
That must have taken some hell of an energy, because, Jesus Christ, to go that distance, take those kind of bumps. He takes that guitar spot across the back from Elias, and he was cut from it too, visibly cut across his back from that. And he's still taking a licking. And then him and Cody at the end, slapping the living piss out of one another. Cody's pec looked pretty, almost just a shade less purple than it did when he fought Seth in the Hell in a Cell after Gunther was through with him.
Yeah, even Cody said, despite his best efforts, the one pec felt great despite Gunther's attempts to, tear the other one. But I thought it was great. Like, not only did he have, obviously he had moments with just about everyone in the Rumble because he was in the ring with everyone. But the one that really, I think, everybody wanted to see, and when we finally got him, it was for a couple seconds, but he had a face-to-face with the beast incarnate, Brock Lesnar.
Mm-hmm.
And oh my God. Obviously, they're going to go with Bobby Lashley and Brock Lesnar. Let's not fade. Like, man, that pop was also quite deafening as well. That was a good-sized pop and a very I think, a pop you'll forget because there was so many and maybe bigger ones out there. But, yeah, that was a good one as well. But staying with Gunther, if you don't think they are probably going to do that match at SummerSlam in some way, shape, or form, I'm going to say you were probably drinking more alcohol than I did last night.
It's very possible because, again, when I saw those two staring each other down, I'm like, this is exactly what Brock wants. Brock wants competitive wrestlers. That's what he likes. He likes big guys. Gunther's a big guy. Like, it's got to happen, and it's going to happen eventually. But yeah, you did see things unfold with Bobby Lashley. That was fantastic as well too. I also got to say the other one that seemed to be coming out of this thing leading into WrestleMania is potential for Seth Rollins and Logan Paul possibly down the road. That could be a WrestleMania matchup in the making. How does that one strike you? Is that of interest to see Seth Rollins going up against Logan Paul in WrestleMania?
I mean, that was a pop too. I don't think a lot of people expected Logan Paul to do any damage, let alone throw out potentially one of the MVPs in WWE for the last few years in Seth freaking Rollins, who, by the way, may have stole Royal Rumble weekend with his attire at the WWE 2K event. But Seth Rollins has this amazing ability at whatever time of his career is not only to reinvent himself now, but to also be very crowd interactive. Therefore, you are definitely always going to react to Seth Rollins. There was no one that wanted Logan Paul to throw out Seth Rollins, but he did. And it made Logan Paul a much hated individual. And because of that, they have something in the making right now. And it's, you know what? Given the fact that it's Seth in there, I think this is going to be really good. And I'm going to say this. I think it's going to be better than anything Logan Paul has done in WWE as of now.
Yeah. We got Basser saying that Seth's the second best cowboy in professional wrestling, only second to Stephen Grow, the Rhinestone Cowboy.
I mean, I got to give love to the throwback Smoking Guns.
Yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong.
And Jimmy Wang Yang, come on, who doesn't like Jimmy Wang Yang?
There's been a lot of good cowboys in professional wrestling, is what is clear. I do want
Saskatchewan's own Brock Lesnar. Come on.
That's right. Yeah, Cowboy Brock. I do want to, of course, talk about the potential for the championships, possibly even 2 nights of Roman Reigns fighting at WrestleMania and defending belts, with the possibility of the belts being split. We will make that maybe the top topic of the night here coming up. But before we do, I know that we have a lot of great shows coming up this week on our local establishment, a plethora of things coming from great content creators here. And we want to make sure that you have an opportunity to check out all the shows we got going on. So stay tuned. Here's what we got coming up this week at ALL Elite Podcasts. admittedly, there was an error on the calendar. I will just correct that. That special episode of Taking Over is on Saturday, February the 4th. We will get that corrected on the calendar, of course. But yeah, that is on this coming up Saturday, following the Vengeance pay-per-view premium live event that they got going on there. So that'll be coming up this Saturday night as well, too, including the regular episode of Taking Over on Tuesday night. So check out all those great shows that we got from our local establishment. But let's talk about the potential for the championships here, Parrish, because there's, the obvious storyline was clearly Cody Rhodes getting his opportunity, wanting to go fight Roman on the biggest stage and finally being the first member of the Rhodes family to win the world championship within the WWE. So that one is on the table, potentially. But now we've got a little bit of a curveball because, again, with Sami Zayn turning last night on the Bloodline and that story unfolding, now where do we go from here? Because clearly Roman's not going to be happy about this. He's going to want a measure of revenge against Sami, whether that's in a one-on-one capacity or whether we're going to see some form of a tag team matchup. We don't know just yet, but this could lead to potential of what they were saying, Roman Reigns fighting and defending titles on both nights of WrestleMania. Could we see one night versus Sami Zayn and one night versus Cody Rhodes? And could he potentially lose both championships on the same weekend?
Potentially. However, I think we must also notice and acknowledge, pun intended, that Elimination Chamber hails from Sami Zayn's hometown of Montreal, Quebec, Canada, later in February, or in mid-February, that is. And it would be hard-pressed to think the main event is not Roman Reigns versus Sami Zayn for the undisputed WWE Universal Championship, which I now have finally got the wording correct to this, because holy hell, have they maybe not made it difficult, but it's a mouthful.
That's what she said, right?
Yeah, right. Without being said, but then now we're looking at a potential KO Sami Zayn reunion, because you really have to think that Sami Zayn this entire time wanted to be a Bloodline member, wanted to be a part of the family. That is the Bloodline. But he also he wanted to walk away from his past. He didn't want to necessarily always have to relive it and damage it. I think it was very apparent that he was okay beating up Kevin Owens. He was not okay crippling Kevin Owens. Yeah. And I love that there was a heavy heart in Sami Zayn, and it didn't take until those multiple shoves to the face by Roman Reigns before he actually attacked. And yeah, there were comments made, 100%. We're not going to say them on air. You know what they are if you watch the show. They did not hold back. But needless to say, it was one of the most captivating stories. And then you saw Jey Uso walk away. And you got to also take into account, not only do they have a Elimination Chamber pay-per-view in Montreal, but the Usos will not be there. They cannot be in Canada right now. So we will not have the Usos. We will only have Solo Sikoa and Paul Heyman there, which means it's basically a 2-on-1 on Sami Zayn, which if Kevin Owens is involved, it's now a 2-on-2. So the odds will be even against the Bloodline. And we have seen in the past that the only time you can get in the armor that is the Bloodline is by evening the odds or having that man advantage. This could be it. And then you add Cody, which is a guaranteed match against Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. Now the question is, does Roman Reigns keep those championships to WrestleMania?
Interesting. I almost think it goes this way. You have the Elimination Chamber with the thought that somebody is going to get that opportunity to fight Roman Reigns on one of the other nights. Cody gets one night. somebody gets the other. You put the chamber together, Sammy gets the spot within it, earns his spot. Roman then, works a deal to get Solo into the matchup, and Solo's only idea is to get the job done so that nobody else challenges Roman, so he doesn't have to work double shift come up at WrestleMania. Of course, have Solo fall short of this, having Sammy roll him up and pin him, eliminating him from the chamber matchup. I think you have Sammy then go on to get the Heroes victory in there, and you have Roman have to go double nights WrestleMania, forcing his hand, forcing the card. I think that there's enough story to be told. I think as much as story to be told with Cody Rhodes is, it's great, but I think the Sammy story has gotten so incredibly over that it almost trumps it at this point.
I think maybe, because I think, one, we're looking near the end to Sami Zayn and Roman, like in terms of story. We're on that final chapter. It's in that stretch. I don't want to say last act, but we know we're there now. We're getting there. Whereas Roman Reigns and Cody is only starting. So it's easy to say it overshadows it right now. Because it should, because we're still in that beginning phase for Roman and Cody. But as I said, one will overshadow. I strongly believe that if Roman Reigns is defending both championships at WrestleMania, that overshadows anything the women are doing. And because of that, both those stories can and should main event a respective night at WrestleMania. But I strongly believe that Rhea Ripley should be in the main event on one of the nights of WrestleMania, one of those women's championships. If it is Bianca Belair, that should main event one of the nights of Mania.
Yeah.
Therefore, I don't split these titles up until after WrestleMania. I allow somebody like Cody Rhodes to do what the people want, whether it's to change the look of the championship, to split them up, to say, I'm going to be the champion on Monday Night Raw that Roman chose not to be. I'm going to be a champion on SmackDown the way Roman decided he didn't have to be. So I would like maybe that, but with Sami Zayn right now, I have a feeling that the end game is still him and KO reuniting and being tag team champions, even though I expect him to challenge Roman Reigns at Elimination Chamber. I have a feeling it might not be the shot we wanted, but I don't think it's going to be the shot we hate if they go a different route. However, I wouldn't even be surprised if Sami Zayn possibly defeats Roman Reigns at Elimination Chamber, if that was the case.
It's an interesting thought for sure. So,
because who's to say the main event at WrestleMania could be Sami Zayn versus Cody Rhodes?
Yeah, there is that possibility. I do have my doubts because I think that one is a harder sell just in terms of where they're both at position-wise in the company right now. But I think that you could have Sammy take a victory by DQ or count out or something like that to keep that alive and keep him looking strong as well too. But
yeah.
I think it's going to be great to tune in again. I know that tomorrow night you're going to be doing the Raw watch along with Chris Best. So I know that the two of you are going to see a lot go down. So I encourage everybody to join you guys, follow along, and check that out, of course. But I think pretty much getting towards the end of the show here. Who do we got on tap for raiding and stuff like that? Are you going to take care of our raid here today? I think. Possibly.
Yeah, to show love to the other platform that also has Jarrod Fritz on. We were very aware, and we're just going to flat out say this. Jarrod Fritz, we came to an agreement to be a part of the show, knowing that Love Wrestling also had it. We had talked with them, and we had asked them for permission before because we did not want to take away from what they did. So to show good faith, we're going to raid Love Wrestling and show some support to them just to show that Jarrod Fritz is someone that everyone should see, despite who's asking him the question. And we also want to publicly acknowledge and thank Love Wrestling for being professional and allowing us to go along, specifically Zach Ralph. Thank you.
Yes. Yes, and if you're joining us on YouTube, you'll stay with us till the very end of the show, of course, and we hope that you're going to give us a like, follow, subscribe. But in the meantime and in between time, as Parrish gets that all set up, we want you to check out all the social media for our local establishment. Make sure you give us a like, follow, subscribe all over the place, of course. And check out our good friends at Rogue Energy, rogueenergy.com, using that promo code OLEPODS for 10% off your order. Where can you find me during the week? Well, you can find me on Twitter at Real Bobby Munson or on Instagram at Video Bros SK. You can find me here at our local establishment Wednesdays with Carl Carafel on Beats and Beatdowns. Thursdays, the new doubleheader show with myself and Pop Smokes. It's going to be half Fusion, half Ring Respect Radio. And you can also catch a new episode of the Bravado where I've got a brand new movie review out for you guys. That's over on the YouTube channel. Bastard, thank you for joining us here today. Appreciate you all as always, and happy birthday to Benny as well too. And again, and then again, you'll catch me here next Sunday with my BrunchBuster brother, Chris Parrish, and we give you episode 23 of Busted Out. It's going to be a great time. Parrish, where can people find you?
You can probably find me on some Delta and WestJet flights today. So if you're mobile about 20,000 feet up north, I'll be up there mostly today. But if you're on the social media, you can find me on the Twitter at Chris Parrish, Instagram, Chris.Parrish, the Twitch at the Chris Parrish, and YouTube at Chris Parrish. Yes, but also you can always find me on all of the OLE podcasts, and also make sure that if you want to get a hold of us and possibly be a guest or potentially collaborate with OLE, you email us at olepodcast@gmail.com.
Do that, and we'll look forward to hearing from you all. And make sure you get your questions in for us for next Sunday so we can find out just how far off the rails we can go. I believe that is going to bring us to a wrap here, though. So if you're with us on YouTube, we thank you for joining in for the full hour and 15 minutes, and we will see you next Sunday. Take care.
Are you ready to rock? We'll just let it fall. Are you ready now? Are you ready to move? With me, just move with me. Move with me. Come on, get up and move with me. Just move with me. Move with me. Move with me, just move.